The puppy's dilemma: consider the new puppy whose owners come home at regular times and join in an ecstatically joyful greeting ceremony. This imagery is quickly ingrained, and the pup begins to anticipate the experience, just Konorski's dogs hallucinated about the flickering light and the food tray. However, as will happen in even the most well-regulated household, one day the owner is late. The puppy begins experiencing the images of his tardy owners, starts fretting, pacing. Well-primed energies, ready for the greeting ceremony, demand an outlet as the adrenaline starts pumping. What's going on in its mind's eye or ear? It probably imagines hearing footsteps, perhaps even sees the door open. Which doesn't happen. But it should. This introduces conflict between what it wants and expects and what is really happening. Conflict creates frustration. Frustration produces anxiety, which triggers an even greater adrenaline rush. The pup searches for something real to satisfy its desire to experience the owner, a magazine or book it saw the owner reading recently. It is rich with the owner's scent. If it cannot have the owner there, it can at least have their genuine odor or taste. So it sniffs, tastes, maybe even swallows parts of the article. Naturally, this does not fully substitute for the whole owner, so the puppy's social appetite is not really satisfied. Finally, here comes the owner. The puppy innocently launches into its joyous, semi-hysterical ritual. The owner starts to join in, but spies the pulverized magazine or book. What's this? Naturally, if not wisely, the owner angrily grabs the pup, drags it to the demolished object and scolds it, or slaps its snout or rump, or both. The pet's single-track mind is riveted on the owner. It yips, rolls over, or struggles vainly to escape. Punishment concluded, the owner angrily picks up the remnants of the article and storms to the trash basket. Psychic trauma: the net result of this is a totally confused pup with a conflicting set of images of its owner. This sort of shock to the nervous system is called psychic trauma in both animals and humans. A conflict has been instilled between the positive image of the owner, happy Dr. Jekyll, and the negative Mr. Homecoming Hyde. This creates frustration and anxiety about homecomings, growing in severity if the scenario is repeated a few times. It is interesting that in many cases, owners tell us that the pup was fine for a day or so after the first punishment. This may equate to the human experience of repression, in which memory of the traumatic experience is suppressed, creating a sort of backwards amnesia. Even when this occurs, since the punishment was not associated with the act of chewing up something, the puppy seeks out another article, perhaps a shoe, and the cycle is repeated until the total relationship between owner and dog is tainted with emotional ambivalence. Mixed feelings are eating away at the positive qualities of their relationship. Negative emotional impressions may start to dominate it. At about this stage, many owners conclude that the punishment may not have been severe enough. That's why the correction was not permanent. So they intensify it. The relationship erodes further as weeks go by. Enough of this cascading negative effect and the owner is ready to take drastic action. The dog, now hypersensitive to its owner's mood change, feels something is wrong. This often is reflected by new problems, such as submissive wetting when the owner comes home or approaches the dog at other times, off-schedule bowel movements or urination occur, etc. Many pets act insecure, currying more favor when the owner is home, and hence, missing the owner even more acutely when left alone. Frustration and anxiety build, while the isolation-related, tension-relieving behavior mounts. The unwitting owner, who originally may have thought the dog is getting even for being left alone, begins to consider it incorrigible. Help. This is when outside help is often sought. A book is purchased. The veterinarian, breeder, pet shop, a trainer or behaviorist may be consulted. If lucky, the owner gets advice that brings genuine insight into pet/owner relationships and dog behavior. But, more likely, they find traditional quick fixes and the dog winds up in a desensitization program, gets dosed with anxiety-relieving drugs or barbiturates, is stuck in a cramped crate or cage all day, or banned to the yard or garage, or has its mouth stuffed with chewed debris, and taped shut for hours. Since none of these approaches deal with the causes, the thinking dog, and the total relationship with its owners and the environment, success is rare. The majority of these formerly precious pets find themselves rejected, relegated to the local pound for 5 to 7 days, where the odds are 3 to 2 they'll suffer society's ultimate solution. But things don't have to be so grim, if the owners learn some dog think. Applying positive imagery to solve separation anxiety. Dogs that misbehave when they are left alone are said to be suffering from separation anxiety. The term is a neat buzz phrase, almost everybody uses it. It sounds professional. The trouble is, as a transplant from human psychiatry, it really doesn't convey much full information. However, the term is here, so we'll use it in its broadest sense, which is a troubled feeling when left alone or apart from a certain person or persons. This allows us to recommend a remedial behavioral program that deals with the realities of the dog's total relationships. First, however, we must be sure that the dog's veterinarian has ruled out the many physical/medical causes for anxiety, such as thyrotoxicoses, hyperthyroidism, prediabetes, encephalitis, allergies, hyperkinesis, etc. etc. The program dogs that are unduly upset when left alone usually enjoy their owner's attention and petting whenever they ask for or demand it when the people are at home. To apply the imagery concept to this relationship, we could say the dog sees itself as directing or leading the owner. When it wants some petting, it nudges or otherwise stimulates the owner, and the owner complies. The dog wants out, whines at the door or at the owner, and the door gets opened. Mealtime approaches, dog whines and prances, and dinner gets served. When the owner goes from room to room, the dog is either ahead, leading them, or close behind. This is the reality of their relationship, at least in the dog's mind. But, when the owner leaves, against the dog's wishes, the pet is predictably upset, and problem behavior occurs. This can involve barking, chewing, pacing, self-mutilation, off-schedule bowel movements, urination around the house, etc. The leadership problem can be turned about by presenting a different reality to the dog, one in which the dog is pleasantly, but firmly and consistently told to perform some simple act, such as sit whenever it attempts to gain attention or affection, or whenever the owner wants to give the dog some attention. All sits, or whatever command is used down is a good one for highly bossy dogs are praised happily as 3 to 5 seconds of petting is awarded, then the dog is cheerfully released with an okay or free. Free is a good release because okay is too common a word. If a really bossy dog refuses to obey, and many do when they realize their relationship is being turned around, simply ignore the situation, turn away and go on about some other activity, ignoring the dog. Some dogs have refused to respond for as long as 4 days before coming to terms with a follower relationship. However long it takes, after a few days the dog's image of itself seems to evolve from one of giving direction to taking it with compliance prior to being petted, getting dinner, going out the door, getting on the couch, etc. In moving around the house, whenever the dog forges ahead, simply about turn and go the other way. This must be repeated until the dog walks patiently behind or, better yet, doesn't even follow. It is also helpful, but not vital, to practice downstays of increasing length during several evenings a week.